And in the town that gave us the reggae-trousered philanthropists. The next thing you need to give us is Peter Chowney. And I've already dared him that when he makes his first speech in Parliament, I want him to get up and say, Mr. Speaker, representing Mugsborough, I wish to explain a few things about this town. Pete, thanks for all the campaigning work you are doing as a candidate, but also the great work you've done as leader of the council and the achievements you've made there. Because winning is important, obviously, and winning isn't done in the last week, it's done over quite a long time. It's that strength and that basis in the community that is so important. And that's why I'm so proud of the way our party has developed into a community organising force that's so strong within our communities. Charlotte, who introduced this evening, is one of our many absolutely brilliant community organisers. And this evening we were talking to people on surviving on the streets. What a fantastic group they are. What brilliant work they do. Talking to them about how they raise money to buy food and get donations of clothing and how they give it to people who are up against it. Indeed, I've just spent quite a while talking to some people who are rough sleeping around town about their lives, what happened to them and the disasters that befell them. And you can hear these stories all over the country. And I was asked, what's your priority when you win the election? Think about it, there's so many priorities, so many things that have to be done. I just have to say this, my absolute priority is dealing with the situation facing rough sleeping homeless. There's something morally wrong about a wealthy country that tolerates people sleeping rough, that tolerates the idea that some will depend on food banks to survive, that tolerates the idea that some of our children will go to school hungry, that tolerates the idea that somehow or other these things are sort of inevitable, a kind of act of economic law or something like that. And then you look at what's happened over the past 10 years. We now have 150 billionaires in Britain. But you know what, some of them are quite mean because only... hear me through, wait, before you make judgment, hear the facts. There's 150 of them, that's like 150. Only a third of them, 50 of them, are donating to the Tory party. Well, how mean is that? How did they get to be billionaires in the first place? And so the Tory party, funded by billionaires and the very rich, unable to produce reports on a lot of things, including the influence of Russian money on the British political system, unable to tell us the truth about all of that. And our party, I'm proud to say, our money for our election campaigns comes from those in trade unions at work who donate some of their salary to their union, which goes into the political fund, which helps to sustain the Labour Party. And £2 million donated by people all over the country. The average donation, £25. Compare that to the billionaires from the Tory party and the £25 donation from the Labour Party. Doesn't that say everything you need to know? Everything you need to know about what's at stake in this election campaign. We've had everything possible thrown at us as a party. We've had unbelievable levels of abuse thrown at individuals in leading positions in our party. Their lives turned apart, torn up by various so-called media investigations into them. I'll tell you this, when they go low and attack us with personal abuse and all the rest of it, we don't respond, we go high. Yep. And when they get into the gutter, as they frequently do, we go to the skies, because we are better than them. We are better able to behave in the intelligent way we want our society to be. And so, our manifesto, this document here, this wonderful manifesto, is written by many brilliant people. Andrew Fisher, our Director of Policy, is here tonight, who was the pen holder who helped to put it all together. But he'd be embarrassed if I told him that he had written it, because yes, he obviously coordinated it, but it's been written by lots of very knowledgeable people, lots of very expert people. But in reality, it's the product of our processes, of the discussion we have at branch meetings, the discussions in union branch meetings, constituencies, National Policy Forum, lots of places. It's the collective thoughts of all of us of how we want our world to be in the future and how we want to go forward to win this election. And so, in the last 10 days of this campaign, we're building on all that work we've been doing for a very long time. We're building on those campaigns. We're building on those successes people have had at local levels in defending hospitals, defending libraries, defending schools, all those sort of things. But I tell you what, I'm fed up with defending places against closure. I'm fed up with having to do all this campaigning to stop something being closed. I want to lead a government that opens things, a government that builds children, a government that builds schools, a government that builds I don't want to lead a government that's serious about dealing with the injustices and inequalities that exist in our society. In 2010, the Liberal Democrats and the Tories got together and formed a coalition. They met in the Rose Garden of number 10. I have to say, I think that garden should grow vegetables as well. It's just a thought, that's all, just a thought. Because I do think land should always be put to productive use. Not that roses are unproductive. I'm sure there's somebody here who's going to tell me they're ecologically sustainable, and they are. It's okay, I get that. But it is that coalition that made a choice. They made a choice. They could continue bailing out the bankers and put austerity on the rest of us, or they could have done something different and invested for the future of all of us. They took the political decision, the political choice of imposing austerity. And that first budget, what did it do? Cut welfare spending, cut support for local government, froze public sector wages, went on to introduce the Health and Social Care Act, which has led to 10 billion of privatisation within the National Health Service, went on to treble university fees to £9,000 a year, went on to create, yes, create the hostile environment that was so brutal towards the Windrush generation who've given so much to our country and our society. And they made those decisions knowing exactly what the consequences of them were. They knew that it would end up with deindustrialisation. They also tried to deregulate the labour market. And so we have a country that doesn't even meet basic ILO conditions, and we have a real problem of people's security in their jobs. And so I am very keen that our manifesto is fully understood in all its parts. A journalist said to me today, Mr. Corbyn, the country can't possibly afford your manifesto, it's far too expensive. And I said, are you sure the country cannot afford it? Because unless we invest for the future, where will the jobs of tomorrow be? Where will the housing of tomorrow be? Where will the trained workers, the nurses, the doctors, the teachers, the engineers, the architects, everybody, where will they come from? Unless you look through the serious proposals that we're making here. And there's so much in our manifesto that I could talk about all night, but I'm not going to be allowed to do that because I've been told I'm going to go back to London tonight in order to start another day's campaigning tomorrow. I've only been to 50 constituencies, I've got a lot more to go to. But I just want to... say this about some of the points in our manifesto. The National Education Service will be the legacy that we will leave for future generations. It will be the principle that education is free from cradle to grave. It will be taking the market out of education and inserting the right. Free schools and academies into the family of education, into the family of the local education authority. And it will be proper nursery facilities for 2 to 4-year-olds, free for 30 hours a week. And it will be the end of university fees, tuition fees, and it will be proper equality of esteem, of value, between those that do vocational education to get an apprenticeship and get a qualification, or they go to university and get an academic qualification. We need all of that. And I'm so proud of it. Our National Health Service is Labour's greatest achievement. No question about that. The 1945 government came in after an election campaign in which Labour was completely written off, his chances by the national media completely wrote them off, and a leader who was roundly abused by the media. Just saying, because I'm fascinated by the history of our party, our movement, our society, and how things come to change in life and in society. That government was no doubt told by many experts, you can't possibly be serious. A National Health Service? What? You mean a worker goes to a hospital and gets treated free? You can't be having that. You can imagine the arguments used against it. People won't value the service if it's free. You go to a hospital, go to any hospital, talk to people when they're queuing up, waiting to be treated and so on. Ask them what they think of the NHS. They may well have things they're complaining about, usually their health, but nobody ever says the solution to all our problems is to get rid of the National Health Service, do they? They never say that. And so, when President Trump arrives tomorrow, we treat guests with respect. I just got a very simple message. I have studied the papers of the meetings that the British Conservative government has been having with the US Department of Trade over the past 2 years. Authorised by Theresa May, authorised by Boris Johnson. And you go through those papers, and it's frightening. It's absolutely frightening. They're there happily discussing extending the patents on medicines so that they cannot be sold in generic form, but only in the patent form, for export to the British market. They're discussing access to our health service by American pharmaceutical companies and others. They're talking about access to our public services. They're talking about investor-state protection, which is a way in which an international process, which we would have no control over whatsoever, decides whether a company has been badly done by because it's invested in Britain where we've decided to raise the minimum wage, for example. And you think this is all pie in the sky stuff. Well, I tell you what, Philip Morris and other companies have taken other countries to court for them trying to improve the health of their populations. Well, this to me is more than disturbing. And when one of the British officials sort of deftly raised a question about could the issues of the climate emergency and environmental disaster facing the world be included in our trade negotiations, they're told pretty bluntly, no way, the US administration will not tolerate any of that kind of thing. So the whole basis of the trade arrangement is access to public services, is getting their hands on our National Health Service, and is ignoring the major issues facing this whole planet, such as the environmental emergency. So my simple message, and it is a very simple message to both Boris Johnson and Donald Trump, is Our NHS is not for sale. And so, the future is ours to make. The future is ours to win on the 12th of December. Do you want a government that will end the scandal of 0 hours contracts, give workers the protection from day one of their employment, of access to employment rights, give workers that opportunity to retrain and develop, and raise the minimum wage to a real living wage of £10 an hour, including for young workers? These things are all clearly there in our manifesto. Ending the gender pay gap, ending discrimination at work in any form, building that society where we respect and work with each other, and we do not allow racists in any form whatsoever to divide us. But it's also about facing the greatest issue facing this world, and that is the climate and environmental emergency that we have at the present time. If we walk away and do nothing about it, it will get worse. It will mean there will be rising sea levels, there will be global warming, there will be unusual and extreme weather patterns, there will be floods, there will be famine, there will be drought, there will be disasters. At the moment, mostly but not exclusively, affecting the poorest people in the poorest parts of the world. But nobody can escape it. So, on May the 1st, I proposed to Parliament a motion that this country declare a climate crisis, an environmental crisis. And that was agreed by the House of Commons. It was agreed mainly because Michael Gove demonstrated in his rather lengthy speech that he doesn't like me one little bit. I can cope with that, that's okay. But he also had no real arguments against it, because he has to recognise the seriousness of it. So we are bound by the Paris Climate Change Accords of 2015 to get to a net zero emissions by 2050. At the current rate, we might reach it by 2099. Globally, it won't be reached till well into the next century. That will be too late. The global warming will have gone too far by that stage. And so our manifesto makes the commitment. We will do everything we can to reach it as soon as we can, and if we get there by 2030, that would be fantastic. But it's also about not threatening people, but seeing this as an opportunity to create green energy jobs all across the country, to build the Swansea Bay Lagoon, to build the Mersey Barrage, to build the wind farms all along the coast, and make sure that the coastal communities, the seaside towns like Hastings, benefit from the energy created by them, and they get a suitable dividend to help them with community development in those places. And the retrofitting of so many of our homes that at the moment waste so much energy and cost so much to waste so much. So it is about investment. It is about investment in broadband technology to make sure that every home in the country within 10 years gets free broadband access through fibre optic cables. That's an investment which means you can develop jobs and communities and industries in all kinds of remote places where they will not go at the present time, which again reduces the transport needs and costs. It's also about public ownership of our railways in order to make sure they're electrified and make sure they're clean, but also a bus service worthy of the name over the entire country. There's so much that the green industrial revolution will bring about that's so exciting, and it unites people together. Those that are passionate about the environment and those that are passionate about seeing investment in their communities that have seen precious little since the end of the miners' strike in different parts of the country. And so, our manifesto is there for social justice, there for economic development, there for what we will do on the climate issues. But it's also there to address the grotesque imbalances that exist in our society. The WASPy women were grievously misled by government. They've suffered grievously since then. And I was told, you can't possibly do this, it's too expensive, and some women shouldn't get it because they might earn more than the others that are too wealthy. My reply is simply this. It's a contract between the government and the people. You pay your tax, you pay your national insurance, you get your pension, you get your support, you get your social security. And if the Tories and the Lib Dems want to break that contract, shame on them. A Labour government will not break that contract. That contract is important. So we have a very short time to go to complete this election campaign, and hopefully, I'm absolutely determined to see it, we elect a Labour government on December the 13th. That government that can start to redistribute wealth and power, that government that will bring an end to the endless debate about what people did or didn't do in 2016, but bring people together so that we can face the future together, to end austerity, make sure we have trade with our nearest neighbours, protect the Good Friday Agreement, but above all, invest in the future to end austerity. And so, when you go out campaigning, door knocking, when you go out engaging people in conversation, listen very carefully to everything they say, because this manifesto is a product of that listening exercise. And take people on board with us, so that when that Labour government is elected, our strength in our party, our unions and our community will be in working together with that government, in delivering the housing that we need, ending rough sleeping homelessness, building those children's centres that have been closed down all over the country, developing those green energy jobs all over the country, providing apprenticeships and good quality training for people all over the country, providing that sense of opportunity and hope. In short, to build a country that's fit for the next generation to live in. I'm fed up with our young people being told, pay for your education, pay for your health, pay for your pension, because nobody else is going to do it for you. What is wrong with us? One of the richest countries in the world in the 21st century, that we tolerate these degrees of inequality. And so when they say, well, where's the tax coming from? I simply say this: it's all costed. John McDonnell's costed it very, very carefully. Yes, the richest 5% will pay a bit more, the richest and biggest corporations will pay a bit more. Yes. And that will take us to a level of spending roughly equivalent to France or Germany on the level of public service that they have. That's how far behind we've got since neoliberal economic ideas took over our political discourse. And so, please do absolutely everything you can to listen and persuade people of the importance of voting on December the 12th, and to go out and vote on December the 12th, whatever the weather. But here in Hastings, there's nothing ever than sunshine, in my experience. I've been here so many times, I've even been sunburned in Hastings. I've been up that cliff, I've got sunburned on my head, just walking up there. So, you never know, you might have a wonderful day on the 12th of December. But whatever the weather, when you've got Pete elected as your MP, you're going to have a wonderful